It was about 6 a.m. when the alarm rang, and I felt just extremely nauseous and very thirsty. I turned to go into a little half bathroom, and that's the last thing I remembered. It was lights out for me. Far, far in the distance, I could hear my name being called. And I resisted. I was like, quit calling me, leave me alone. But I recognized that it was my husband's voice, and he kept calling my name over and over, and I sensed the fear in his voice, and that grabbed me, I guess, at a physical level. And when I gave in to that voice, I found myself being pulled backwards from that scene, back from Holly, back from all the animals, the tree, and back into the physical form. Hi, everyone. My name's Pamela Nance, and I'm here today to share my near-death experience. On Friday, April 20th, 1990, I was working a dinner shift at a local gourmet restaurant. This was a job that I had as I worked my way through undergraduate school. It was the final few weeks of my senior year studying archaeology, and I was under quite a bit of stress, studying for final exams, working double shifts. And during a period of several weeks, I developed an ulcer. On this particular Friday evening, I was in quite a bit of pain and wasn't sure I would be able to finish out my dinner shift when suddenly I just felt a slight pop in the middle of my stomach and the pain subsided. So I just thought, I had maybe a stomach bug. I really didn't associate the pop with my ulcer. So I was able to finish out my dinner shift and return home. The next morning when I awoke, I felt a little queasy, almost like I had a stomach bug or something. But I managed to trudge through my day and get ready for a dinner engagement that evening. I really did not feel like going, but I didn't want to disappoint my husband or the friends that we were meeting. But upon returning home, I became quite ill and began throwing up. And it appeared that there was blood in the mixture, but I'd had an entree with cherry sauce, and I'd also had a glass of red wine. And I just kind of thought, it's the cherry sauce, the red wine. But I decided to call my husband in and ask him to take a look. And he, debated, and he said, well, you did have the cherry sauce and the red wine. And we just kind of blew it off, returned to bed, just set the alarm for rather early the next morning. We had planned to go to a flea market together. And it was about 6 a.m. when the alarm rang, and I felt just extremely nauseous and very thirsty, and told my husband, just go to the flea market without me. I'm going to stay here and rest. And I heard him downstairs getting ready to leave, and all I could think about was a big glass of Coca-Cola over ice. I was so thirsty. So I managed to get out of bed, go to this railing. I asked him to bring me a soda as he came back to town, because that's something we typically don't keep in the house. And I turned to go into a little half bathroom, and that's the last thing I remembered. It was lights out for me. I was no longer in the physical plane. I was standing on the side of a snow-capped mountain range. And in between the two mountain ranges was the greenest valley you could ever imagine. And people talk about the colors on the other side, as being indescribable. And this is absolutely true. What I experienced goes beyond human description. The colors were so vibrant, so beautiful, so encompassing. And I felt as though I was part of this environment, that I was really not a physical form any longer, that I was an energetic part of the whole scene. And as I took all of this in, I looked back into this beautiful green valley, and in the midst was this gigantic tree. And the tree spoke to me. It beckoned me to come to it. And when I had those thoughts, I was under the tree, standing on this green grass. At this point, I was surrounded by animals. I could feel the love coming from all of these animals. It was just the most beautiful, beautiful feeling and belonging. I had no thoughts of my physical form or my physical life. I was there, and I knew that's where I was supposed to be, that's where I belonged, with these beautiful creatures that loved me. And as these feelings built within me, the animals parted, and out from the midst came my Rottweiler, Holly, who had passed away on the Thursday night, or really early Friday morning of that same day that I had the stomach pop, or the stomach pain. But the Holly that I was seeing under this majestic tree appeared to be in her youth, maybe about 2 or 3 years old. She looked like she did, shortly after I first got her. She was shiny, she was vibrant, she was so happy to see me. Her little body was wiggling and her tail was wagging back and forth, and I just fell to my knees and I started crying, and I embraced her because I'd never expected to see Holly again. I just lost her, and here she was, alive, and she was licking the tears from my face, and it was just absolutely beautiful, and the love, truly what is indescribable. And as I'm in this scene, far, far in the distance, I could hear my name being called. I recognized that it was my husband's voice, and he kept calling my name over and over, and I sensed the fear in his voice, and that grabbed me, I guess, at a physical level. And when I gave into that voice, I found myself being pulled backwards from that scene, back from Holly, back from all the animals, the tree, and back into the physical form. I opened my eyes, and my husband said, "Don't move, the paramedics are on the way." It was at that point that I had like a split in my consciousness. And in the ICU, where they immediately took me and began, all these procedures that I could feel, I was also watching that from above. And I imagine that was a full coding, because at that point, I left the physical form completely and was 100% spirit energy. As in the valley, I was pulled back from that scene, and by this brilliant white light, and I was in a garden, a beautiful garden. Again, the grass so incredibly green, beautiful trees lining the garden, flowers growing. The colors truly are indescribable, and the feeling that you're part of this fabric of life and energy. I did not feel separated from it. I was part of it. I walked the garden, and came upon a beautifully carved wooden bench. So I took a seat there. And as I'm sitting there, I see a mist forming off in the distance. And as the mist comes towards me, it starts to take a physical form of a Buddhist monk. He was clothed in an orange robe, head was shorn, his feet were bare. He had like a pinkish orange sort of cloth wrapped around the body. And he appeared to be maybe early 40s, mid 40s. And he came and sat beside me on the bench and introduced himself. His name was Hoche. And Hoche told me that I was in the garden, and this is where I come in my life between lives. And when I'm in the garden, Hoche is my guide. And he explained that I come there to learn the healing arts, how to heal at an energetic level plants and animals, and eventually the human form. But at this point, I was at the place of learning the plant and animal healing. And we stood up and walked a short distance to overlook this beautiful green meadow that was full of other types of animals like sheep and cows and goats. I was engulfed in their energy and in their love. And that's the point that, I want to keep making, is that there's just so much love on the other side, so much interconnectedness to our soul level. I knew that this is where I belong. So I'm enjoying this scene, and I turn, and Hoche is observing me, and I walk towards him, and, I asked him, I said, this is different. I was in a beautiful green valley between two snow-capped mountain ranges earlier, under a tree surrounded by all kinds of animals. Where did they go? And he explained that the valley is the place that I first go as an entryway into the garden. Maybe like a gateway or a passageway or a bridge into this life between lives. But my husband had called me back. Suddenly, I can only describe it as like a veil coming over that scene. It was like this shimmering, almost the colors of like an abalone shell, these beautiful shimmering colors coming down this curtain. And so that scene was closing. And we walked back into the garden, and I looked at Hoche, and he nodded, because I knew that I was being brought back, that I wasn't allowed to go any further into that scene. And as I'm coming to consciousness, I'm being scrubbed down, and it's quite painful. There were two nurses standing over me. They were scrubbing down my chest, and I managed to ask, what's happening? What are you doing? And one said that they were preparing me for surgery. But she looked at the other nurse and she said, get the doctor. So the doctor came in, and he said, before we take you to surgery, we're going to do one more endoscopy. He was able to laser the bleeding, which he found through the endoscopy, and that solved the problem. What I learned later in the day, as I became more conscious and aware, was that evening, that Friday evening at work, the pop I felt had been a blood vessel that had burst in my stomach. So I'd actually been bleeding out from Friday night until that Tuesday morning, actually, and ended up staying in the hospital for 5 days. But I was changed. I was completely changed. As I came home from the hospital, my husband had a really hard time getting me into the house. He just wanted to get me inside, get me in bed. But I just kept asking him, can't you see the energy? It was just so astounding to me that he could not see what I was seeing. I saw the world in an entirely different way. I could see the energy coming from all of the plants as on the ride home. It was a spring day. I live in the South, so lots of plants blooming, azaleas, dogwoods, daffodils, but I'd never seen them the way I was seeing them on the way home that day. Came into the driveway. We have a 350-year-old oak tree in our front yard, which I often go out and hug. I love the tree. She's majestic. But I was seeing her in a different way. I could see her energy. I could see all the energy of the plants in my front yard. And it even affected me physiologically, like going to the grocery store. I can no longer take the cans off the grocery shelf. I would be shocked. There would be so much energy coming from my hands. You could hear an audible pop and sometimes even an arc of blue. So I couldn't grocery shop. If I came into a room and turned on the light switch, the light would blow. Same thing if I turned a lamp on, the light bulb would blow. We were constantly changing light bulbs. If I went out for a walk in the evening under a street light, it would dim. So I knew that I'd been changed at an energetic level. And in an effort to try to explore this energetic change, I did some work at the medical university. So we did some tests on plants in the laboratory using a control and intervention group. And over time, we, determined that my hands would actually benefit the intervention group. They grew at a rate much faster than the control group. And we even did some Kirlian photography and of my hands and their hands, and there was quite a difference in the coronal discharge. So that was almost documented at a scientific level. And that was important because I was in research and science, and I wanted to validate what was actually happening to me. And the complementary and alternative medicine doctor suggested that I enroll in the Healing Touch curriculum that was offered through the hospital side of the medical center where I was employed. And this was a very cutting-edge program using, similar to Reiki, using your hands in certain patterns and touch to promote healing throughout the body. And this modality was offered to the patients in the hospital if they chose to have it. So I did train for that. I reached a level 4 certification, and I worked on a number of patients and had really good results. And that was quite rewarding to see that this energetic component of my physical self had been opened up because of that near-death experience. I do revere all life, and that experience really opened me to the knowledge that where we are right now isn't this is real for this 3D environment that we find ourselves in. But our true life, our true self is on the other side. That's where we're connected to the source, the creator, and to the love, the unconditional love that flows through that area of existence. And my message to the viewers today is that we are all connected by that love. The only thing that keeps us apart, that keeps us separate, is fear. And there's no place for that, because we're all connected. We're all the same at a soul, at a spirit, at a consciousness level. And it becomes very clear once you have this type of experience, the interconnectedness that we all have with each other. And that's my message, that it's all about love. And I thank you for listening.